Hey, what's up, guys? It's Drew with the Money Is Show. We're back today with a very, very unique guest, Gene Guarino. And I got to say the Guarino because he's from or Italy, sorry. And hey, listen, Gene has been an entrepreneur for the last 40 years, doing a multitude of different businesses. Main business he's doing right now is RAL Academy, which stands for Residential Assisted Living. And I've been in real estate for a while, but not the residential assisted living side. So I'm going to ask him a lot of questions for you guys. And of course, you can follow up with him as well at his own website, ralacademy.com. And he's written 4 books. I got 2 of them here on the show, and one of them we're going to give away to you. Gene's going to make it available for you, so we'll talk about that as well. So again, guys, welcome Gene Guarino to the studio today. Gene, man, appreciate you coming out.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Dude, you came to the office and we went some deep rabbit holes.
We did. It was fun.
But you put 2 entrepreneur visionaries together, and you can talk about a lot of stuff in a short amount of time.
We really did. We covered a lot of ground.
A lot of ground, man.
And maybe some starting of things, too.
A lot of ground, man. I love it. I was so excited this morning. I told you this on that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, man. I'm excited to meet other entrepreneurs and talk about what they do. Yours unique because obviously I have a pretty big background in real estate, we talked about, but never residential assisted living. It's a very, very niche market with a lot of cool opportunities, especially as these baby boomers are all freaking coming through right now, right? So I want to talk to you about that side of it. Of course, I want to talk about the books. You've written 4 total so far. I want to talk about a little bit about those, mainly the one you're going to give away. Before we dive into those conversations, let's take a step back for a second. Just give everybody a quick background, 10,000-foot view. What was it like growing up, Gene? Where was it? What was it like?
Well, grew up with a family with 7 kids. So my father was a college professor. I think we have something in common there.
Yeah.
My mother was a nurse. She taught nursing, but with 7 kids, I was in the middle, so I was a little lost, which meant I got to have a lot of fun, not as much responsibility. But I think it was really interesting because I've been a lifelong entrepreneur, but my mother, she really taught us entrepreneurship, and I think it was her way of getting us out of the house. Like go on outside and pick up pine cones. Yeah, well, pick up pine cones and sell them to the neighbors as miniature Christmas trees.
Yeah.
You know, or take sugar cubes and decorate them and sell them to the neighbors. So we did a lot of entrepreneurial things, and I didn't realize the training it was giving me, but it's brought us to where we are today. But
she was using the entrepreneurial pine cones as a babysitter, I believe, right?
I think that was part of it.
Yeah, as far as I get outside and go do stuff. And it's amazing how, just culture, generations change. And we're similar, probably in the same classified of age group. And it's amazing.
I don't know about that. Come on, I got gray hair. You still have hair.
Well, I dye mine, so it's okay. No, I'm joking. But it's like I grew up the same way, where every day was about going outside, and it was about using that imagination and creativity, and go build something, create something. Right? Started a paper route. All those entrepreneurial things that you don't even think about are entrepreneurial. Yeah. But kind of become almost the breeding ground, if you will, for feeding our imagination. I think a lot with the entrepreneur. Speaking of that, here's a great question for you on entrepreneurship. You've been in it for 40 years. A great question I love to ask people on the show is, do you think you are born an entrepreneur, or do you think you can just become an entrepreneur?
It's a great question. I think you can become.
I
don't think you're born. I think a lot of people do things out of necessity. So depending on your economic whatever, that'll require you to do something. But I've worked with so many people that went from a job to being an entrepreneur. They just didn't know they had it in them. So.
Yeah. Interesting. It's always a unique question to see everybody's viewpoint on born or become on the two different sides there. Now, before you got into business, and I think you kind of started, let's just say, as an adult, 18, in real estate was kind of your first business.
Yeah.
Before that, you were a musician.
Yeah.
What was that?
We were, as teenagers, we were professional musicians, so we would play at every place we could, but I was 16, one of my brothers was 18, and at that time I couldn't legally play in the bars and the clubs and the concert halls. I did as much as I could.
Sure.
But we ended up creating our own music school. We had a record label, small recording studio. We had music students coming through the music school, and we were renting a house for 2 years. The end of the 2-year lease, I said, this house is terrible because it smelled like a New York City bus.
Yeah.
And the landlord was even worse. He'd pick up the rent on a Friday and knock on the door on Monday and try to collect again.
Yeah.
So after 2 years of that, we said, that's it. We're either shutting it down or we're going to get our own place. And I looked up the street, saw a for sale sign, and that was the beginning of the real estate investing career.
Kind of going back to what you talked about a while ago, a little bit of the necessity. Like, you had to go figure it out, go create it. But uniquely, when you're talking to me about that, the unique part there is I was thinking through, you've been teaching and training then others how to do stuff, right?
Yes.
Since you were freaking 16 years old.
Yeah, my first drum student, he was twice my age, and I was scared out of my mind because I'm thinking, he is twice as old as I am.
Yeah.
What am I doing teaching
Right,
him?
sure.
And at the end of it, not only did he pay me, but he gave me a tip.
Wow.
And that was just the beginning, that little inkling of, wow, you can get paid for something you know, share it with other people. They can benefit, I can benefit, and I've been doing it ever since.
Yeah, kind of ignited the flame maybe
Yeah.
of how you get paid, not so much off of time, but off of information or knowledge or experience of what you can share with someone versus going in and doing an hour-to-hour job there.
Yeah, you know, when you compare it to my father, who was a college professor, he literally taught teachers, and then me, I graduated from high school, but when it came time to go to college, my father's a college professor.
Yeah.
I'm like, why? I'm already doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
But I ended up going for one semester,
Okay.
2 classes,
Okay.
electronic music and beer, and I failed one. So, but that was it. And all the other kids in the family went to college, but I didn't. I was already an entrepreneur doing things. I remember the very first house that we bought, and when we sold it and made profit on it, the profit that I made alone was more than my father's entire year's salary working as a college professor for decades. And again, that really spoke to me. Probably spoke to him too. It spoke to me for sure.
Very similar to my first one. My parents were teachers, and I graduated college, went to basically become a teacher, and in that summer break there, between my graduating and maybe kind of school starting, I flipped my first house, got that first check. And this was during the early boom of the 2000s, right? So I really wasn't as good as I thought I was. You know, it's much different during that marketplace, and I found that out later in 2007. But I got that first check, and it was the same thing. It was literally like what my parents made as a teacher, and I got it on their summer break. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to go teach, guys. I'm going to go do this right here. And so very similar stories there, man. So let's talk about that first house that you got into. You were doing musician stuff. I know you had to get it because you were looking for an opportunity to grow the music business at the time.
We were leaving the one building. It's like, we're either shutting it down or we're going to move.
Yeah.
And when we saw that sign, I literally took it out of the front yard, brought it home, got on the phone and dialed. So now you know how old I am.
You're doing this right here, man.
Now you know
You're
how
doing
old
this
I am
here.
right there. Dial on the phone.
Yeah.
And it was the real estate agent who was also the owner. He said, come in, get the keys, go to the house, and take a look. He hadn't been in months. The place had been vacant. And we made a whole list of things that needed to be fixed. Went back to his office and he said, what are you talking about? And he said, well, I'm not going to do this one or this one or this one. But the other 27 things, he said, I'll do it. It was about $3,000 worth of repairs. I had no idea at the time. And then he said, well, how are you going to pay for the house? And I said, well, how much is it? I didn't even know. And he said, $28,500.
Yeah.
Now, I'm 18. I'm getting paid like nothing. You spend more than you make. And he may as well said $1 million because I didn't have it. And then I asked, how do you buy a house? He said, people go to the bank. So we went to the bank, and the first bank said no. Went to the second bank, and they said, heck no. Went to the third, we didn't even get out of the car, and they're coming out of the bank to us saying, hey, the other 2 guys called us, we're going to say no too. So we talked to a man who lived across the street from my parents. He was the only entrepreneur that I ever knew. Everybody else had a job. He owned a pool company. So we asked him, his name was Pete Melly, and we said, have you ever bought real estate before? He said, yes. And he said, can you teach us how? And he put his arm around us, and that was the beginning of that mentorship to learn how to do it. And it was no money down because we had no money, no credit, no clue. So we bought it using other people's money, put some money into it, and we sold it 5 years later and made about a $90,000 profit.
Wow.
Which for 2 kids in their 20s is pretty good.
Yes, well, that's good money now. But back then, whatever, it was 30 years ago, whatever. That was some change right there.
Yes.
For 2 young kids. I want to go back to just a comment you said there, which I find all these like clues, let's call them, common denominators when as I interview successful people like yourself, and one of them is a word you just mentioned, which was mentor. Right, and mentors come in a multitude of different styles and fashions and so forth, and some for short term, some for long term, right? All kinds of different styles. But you mentioned that one right there with your neighbor. I think his name was Mike.
Pete Melia.
And you use the word mentor there. How important do you think mentorship is?
Wow. I think if you want to learn something from somebody else and not have to go through all the pain, it is the only way to go. And a mentor is somebody who's going to really care. They're not just doing it to get paid. He never made a dime off us.
Yeah.
I've got a guy I'm meeting this Saturday, just a young guy from church who called up and said, hey, I'd like to get to know you better. And I'm thinking to myself, why not? You know, I'm 3 times his age, but it's like, let's get together for lunch. And if I can share something that helps you, that's great.
Yeah.
But I think mentors are critically important to your success. And being a mentor is a really powerful thing.
Both of those, you ended it on a very, very good point there about being a mentor as well. When it comes to that mentorship, if you're in a situation, say they're watching right now, and they're in a situation where maybe you were back then, where you didn't have the money, right? I mean, there's mentors that charge money, and I'm for it because that's their time. And I think that a word that people love to use is the word OPM. Super important. You bought the house with OPM. But in that mentor thing, there's a thing called OPE, other people's experiences, which is really what you're freaking learning is how they did certain things, which has insane value, learning from other people's experiences. But let's say that someone doesn't have the money to pay for a mentor right now, a fee or whatever it may be. What's something that you would tell them that maybe they could do to bring value to that person, that mentor that they're trying to maybe reach out to try to get them to train them? What's something they could do to bring, how would you tell that person to bring value to that person, to try to convince them to mentor them?
You know, I love the question, but I want to back up a little bit, because just because you pay somebody who's a mentor doesn't mean they're good.
Oh, for sure.
So I don't want somebody
I've done that road.
So I don't want somebody to think I have to pay and get good. It could be free, and something else. Like, I'm going to mentor this young guy. Who knows? Maybe it's just a lunch. Maybe it's a lifelong relationship. I don't know, but I'm not going to get paid for it. But that energy, that time, that experience is so incredibly valuable. How does somebody get that? If somebody is saying, I want a mentor and I don't know who to go to, try to find somebody who is at least doing what you want to do, going where you want to go. And then approach them and say, look, I don't know if you'd be interested, but I would love to take you out for a cup of coffee or a lunch. If I could just pick up a little bit of wisdom from you, I'd really appreciate it. Most guys like you and I and most people we know would say, let's do that. You may blow them off a little bit. Schedules are busy. This guy wanted to get together 3 months ago.
Right,
It's happening this Saturday, God willing.
No, I love that, because I remember when I was starting off like you, and I didn't have any money, man. But I knew I needed help. I was smart enough to know that there was stuff that I didn't know, that it was going to take me a long time to figure out if I wouldn't try to figure it out myself. And I found people, like you said, I just kind of watched and searched out people that were doing at least what I thought maybe I wanted to do or so forth. I did the lunch thing. I was like, dude, I'll take you to breakfast, lunch, dinner, I don't care. And that was even a big step for me, because I didn't freaking have the money. Like even that was like pushing it. And I remember one mentor that I got was funny. He traveled a lot. And I said, I went to him and said, look, man, you travel every week to the airport. This is in Chicago. And I said, I would love to learn from you what you do, how you do it, pick your brain. And I said, what if would you be willing to let me drive you to the airport? And I'll drive you to the airport, and I'll pick you up from the airport every week for you.
That's great.
For free. I said, I'll just take you. I'll come by your house, pick you up, I'll take you, and drop you off at your house.
You were like the original Uber.
Yeah, that's right. I should have paid attention to what I was doing. And I remember, man, for weeks, every week I drove, pick him up, and then spend about an hour with him. And on that trip, he would just let me ask him questions. And I would come with a kind of a list of questions. And I was driving, so I had a little portfolio, 5x7, those little things. I just hand it to him. And I wrote out all my questions.
Wow.
And he would sit there and just read them off. And he would say, well, I'll do it like this. Or here's how this works.
You're a smart guy, man.
That's how I did it. But listen to what you're saying. You got to get creative, right? And I think sometimes we're just afraid to ask.
Yes.
You see someone like you, and you're like, man, I don't want to reach out to Gene. And as we get older, there is that give back philosophy that people gave to us when we were young. And there's only so much you can do. There's only so much you can give back. You're still running a business. You're still having to pay. It's not just about running a business, but you are feeding families that are in your company, right? You can't run a nonprofit and pay everybody in your company, keeping everything afloat, right? But I do think mentorship is extremely important. I want to ask you about the 2 books here. You've written 4.
Yes.
Are all 4 about assisted living?
No, the other ones were teaching kids about money.
Oh, wow.
And that was the original set of books. They were about entrepreneurship and teaching kids about money.
What's those titles right there?
Boy, they're not even in print now, so you can't find them on,
they were
any
back
place.
In the day.
Yeah, way back in the day.
I love the concept, because I ask people a lot on the show is, we talk about money, their philosophy, and I love to talk about the education system.
Yeah.
And, is it broken about entrepreneurship?
Oh, man.
When you grew up and I grew up, entrepreneurship was almost kind of frowned upon
Oh,
at
yeah.
school.
Sure.
And pushed down, like did not want it. What's your thoughts on entrepreneurship, money in the school systems today?
You can't even have a lemonade stand right now without a permit.
That's true.
You know, it's like,
true.
come on. When I was in school, you'd get a whole bag of Charms, lollipops,
Yeah.
and sell them for 50 cents each. So you'd get 4 for free.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
And then it moved on to other things you shouldn't sell at school. But anyway, the concept of business and entrepreneurship and having a need, that's why I love it when people move to this country and it's just wide open to them. They've got every opportunity to do everything, and they do it.
Yeah.
I've met so many people who came here with nothing in their pocket, no connections, barely spoke the language, and they're incredibly successful. Why? Because you can do it.
Do you think part of that is their viewpoint of how they view where they just came from?
Yeah.
And then they come here and they're like, are you freaking kidding me?
Exactly.
And they just have a different outlook.
It's absolutely that. Because when you think about the school system, you mentioned education, I'm going to say lack of education.
Sure.
You go to that school system, it is gearing you up to basically work. Our whole school system is based on a farming system,
Yeah, it's a
which
farming
doesn't even
system.
exist anymore.
It's like a minor league system.
But beyond that, you felt bad if you didn't go to college. Yet, right now, the guy who fixes the plumbing is getting paid $100,000 a year. The guy who does the electric can make $150,000. The guy who went to college is unemployed with his, economics degree and, women's studies. And
$195,000 in debt.
so it's insane what we think about value and money and time, but the concept of time and investing and what you really want to do. One of my biggest themes right now as I get older is the idea of figure out what you want to do.
Oh, yeah.
And then
For sure.
and do that. Most people don't. They wait until the end and they say, when I'm retired, now I can do what I want to do. No.
Yeah, it's like living a life to die, basically. I do not understand that.
That's
concept.
a sad, great way to put it.
Yeah,
right there.
it's maybe blunt, but it's like you live your whole life to go die.
Yeah.
And I don't understand it. And one of the words that I live by these like 3, let's see, pillars or words, which is inspire, influence, and impact.
Yeah, I've seen that all around.
And inspire is what you're talking about right there.
Yeah.
Is, man, go figure out what you love to do. Like, this is life. You got one of them. Go figure out what you love to go do and then go down that path right there. And sometimes you don't even know how it's going to monetize or if it's going to monetize. But I will guarantee that you'll be happier in the sense of you're doing what you love. Now, you may have to have another job so you can pay your bills while you're doing this thing. But when you spend time on what you love, you enjoy it.
And I think it's so true. What comes to my mind is I have a niece, her name is Allegra, and her boyfriend Teddy.
Okay.
And they came to visit, and they said, we're going to be on our way, we're in Arizona, on the way to Las Vegas, can we stop by? Absolutely, they came by. They're in a van, and they live in the van.
Oh, yeah.
And they travel from one location to the other.
Sure.
They get a job, they'll spend a week, a month, 6 months, and they're there. But their family is so down on them for living in the van, and I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
People wait until they're 65 to be able to travel around. You guys are doing it in your 20s, and the van is full of just board games. So it's just this really cool thing. And I'm sure their parents didn't appreciate that I was encouraging them to live in a van down by the river.
Down by the river was a
But they're
Farley.
living the dream. It's like, why wait until the end to hope you can get that back?
You know, it's interesting. I
goodness.
interviewed a couple on the show called the Jergies. And they're a young couple, maybe in their late 20s, or early 30s, something like that. And they both had high-end corporate jobs. He was out of LA at the time at a big marketing firm, and she was at a law office and had a massive career at law. So here they are, working nonstop, right? Putting the hours in constantly, and had one baby. And all of a sudden, he got a phone call. And this, he's telling me the story on the show. He got a phone call from his wife that they believe that she had breast cancer, and they gave her just a little bit of time to live. And they tell the story. They said at that moment it was like, what are we doing then? Like, why are we putting all this time into this marketing firm when I might not ever get to see you for the rest of my life, and we're gonna lose it. And along with your nieces and cousins there or nephews, they quit their jobs, sold everything, bought a RV, and said, let's just go see the world, and I want to record this for our kids if you do pass away. Anyway, she ends up surviving, but they have now made a freaking career. They were just getting signed a deal with Marcus Lemonis from The Prophet. He owns Camping World. And so they're getting sponsored by Camping World now. They just video themselves with their cell phones doing it, create this massive following on YouTube. YouTube's paying them. They have these sponsors now, and it was just because they're willing to go do something that they loved, and they kind of realized, wait a second, why am I putting my time here?
There's a piece in there that is really important, the concept of sometimes an idea, a thought, a hobby, we try to monetize it, and it screws it up.
Yeah, for sure.
They did that for a different reason. Let's live life while we have it at this moment, and it happened to monetize.
It happened to monetize.
Whether it did or didn't, that's not the important part.
Yeah.
The important part is do what you want to do when you can, when you're able to.
I love it.
Yeah, that's
Love
an
that point,
important
man.
piece.
Look at these books here. You've written 2 kids' books. These 2, one, Jake, you hit me on this one. This is How to Start Residential Assisted Living Business. This is the blueprint.
Yes.
Was this the first book or this one?
That was the first one.
First book was this one,
Yeah.
but this is the blueprint on how to do assisted living. And then this is investing in senior housing.
Yes.
So this is the first book you wrote about assisted
This
living.
topic, yeah.
And then this is, but this one is the newest book you have out, and this is the book you're giving away.
Right.
So really quick, before I go further, you talk about it, where do they go to get a copy of the book?
Set up a real simple site, RAL101.com.
RAL 101. And RAL just stands for Residential Assisted Living 101. So RAL101.com.
Yep.
Then download a free copy of the book, or if they
Download
want
the
to pay
book.
shipping, you'll ship them a copy
Exactly.
of it. But they get a free book downloaded right there. Highlight view of it. What is the blueprint book about?
Well, a lot of people have asked me, let me give you the whole how I got here, because we started off when I was 16, 18.
Yeah.
Did single family homes, fix and flip, buy and hold, multi-units, first commercial. Flash forward today, and it's a lot of years later, so I just turned 60. So a lot of years later, and right now we do this thing called residential assisted living. We take a single family home, convert it into the assisted living home for the elderly. The reason why I did that is because I had heard about it 30 years ago where somebody said, this is going to be a great place to be. And I remember running up to him saying, tell me more. And he's like, well, I can't because I don't do it. I'm like, oh, I'm disappointed. Well, do you know somebody who does? And he said, yeah, I know a guy. So I called the guy.
He called the guy.
And I said, will you teach me? And he said, no, I won't. I said, why not? He said, because you're going to take all my business. Now, I want you to think for a moment. He's in Oregon. I'm in Arizona. There's 1,000 miles between us. There's 10 million seniors between us. I can't take all the business. There's so much need for this.
Yeah.
It's what I call a silver tsunami of seniors. So he said, no, I won't. Then I asked somebody else who was doing the business who was not very successful.
Okay.
They said, I'll teach you everything I know. Then I thought about it. Well, if you're not successful, why do I want to know that? So my interest kind of went down until my mom needed help.
Okay.
And when she needed help, then I'm in this situation of I need to find a place for mom.
Interesting.
And when I looked for it, it was scary. It was, you know, you walk through the front door of some of these places and you can smell the neglect.
Yeah.
And it's like, I am not going to do that. I told mom, I'm going to get you a home. I'll find you a home. We'll figure it out. And that's when I vowed to create this solution. So what we do is we do it and we teach other people how to do it. And people have asked, well, what's the blueprint? So we laid it out. You know, how do you find the right home? How do you put it together? How do you do it so you're not the manager, you're not the caregiver, it's a business. And the money you can make is tremendous, but you can also help a lot of people. So our motto is do good and do well.
Yeah, do good and do well. The word well and good kind of coincide there. With, again, the blueprint, you go to RAL101.com to get a copy of it. Go back to assisted living here for a second. This is a niche kind of market, let's call it, you know, just like Subject 2 is and multifamily. A niche market. I have not played in this niche right here before. I have gone on the road, what you're talking about, where you, my grandfather, it was time for him to go into assisted living, and you know, you start looking around, like you said, and it's like, oh my gosh, dude. And then, you know, there's the nursing home side, like the government nursing home, and that was like the worst. And then you start looking at assisted living, and man, the pricing on it was through the roof. Especially as you get to like actually real nice, nice ones that are doing, where you don't walk in and smell neglect. You walk in and smell a home as much as you can, but they're expensive.
It's all in the eye of the beholder. So let me give you the
true.
numbers and the opportunity, because there's a real estate play as well as a business play.
Okay.
On the real estate play, you can own the real estate and lease it to an operator. Maybe charge up to twice the market rent with a long-term low-impact tenant. Think 5-year lease with 5-year renewals at twice the market rent. So that's really good. On this side, if you are the owner of that business, you'll be making enough money, so you should be able to make $10,000 to $15,000 per month net from that business itself. So you can either own the real estate, the business, or both. So I've done both, and I teach people how to do both. This concept of the residential assisted living, the reason why it's a niche, but it's also something that is here, and it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Oh yeah.
When you think about even 10 years ago when the market was down, REOs, short sales, foreclosures, today very little of that happens. McMansions, mini homes. I know you're doing something with that, but the concept that was really hot a little bit ago. But what is happening is the baby boomers are coming through, well, like a pig through a python. They're just coming through, and they are the ones that drive the world's economy. Their last stop is assisted living. So they're going to need care. They're going to need help. Sure. They're not ready for a nursing home. It's not the Golden Girls where they stay at home and live alone. It's something right in between. Single family residential home, not nurses, doctors, and gurneys, but there is care, caregivers, 24-hour care inside that residential setting. So it's a really sweet model. The average person in those homes, US, nationwide, $4,300 per person per month. If you have 10 of those seniors in the home, that $43,000 a month in gross income is pretty huge. Your net after all expenses, including the real estate, the care, everything, is 20 to 30% of that number. So $8,000 to $12,000 in profit from that one single family home. Now we do it in a little upscale manner. 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 square foot home charging 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 a month. So the numbers get even much, much bigger. And the real estate's kind of the easy part because it's bricks and sticks, dirt and mud. It's the business part, the care. So we teach people more about this part, the business part of it, not giving care. I'm not a caregiver. I paid for my mom's care, but I'm not the caregiver. I've owned these homes, but I'm not an operator internally in the business. The owner doesn't have to go there and show up, but the real estate, the business, putting it together, and then doing that a number of times, most people can survive on 10 to 15,000 a month. Imagine having 3 of those homes within 30 minutes. That's what we call a 3-pack, and that's what a lot of our students do.
They're trying to get to the 3-pack model.
Yeah.
I think this is my own noviceness here, if you will. I think when I always heard about residential assisted living, I just thought to myself, man, I do not want to work. I don't want to work in that field, basically. Like, I'm not a nurse, I'm not a doctor. I don't know how to deal with a tenant like that. And I think I completely misread that whole concept. Was you're not dealing with that person as a tenant.
Yeah, well, they're not a tenant. It's not a landlord-tenant relationship. We're providing a service.
It's a business.
And it's like somebody saying, I love restaurants. Let me own a restaurant.
Yeah.
Well, loving restaurants and owning restaurants, two different things. I don't want to be the back office or back of the room manager. I don't want to be the front of the room manager. I don't want to bust the table. I don't want to be the waiter or waitress. I just love restaurants. So can I enjoy the product itself, but just own the business from afar? And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
The owner of the hotel doesn't show up when somebody calls off.
That's true.
The owner of the residential assisted living doesn't cover somebody's shift when they can't be there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's very, very unique concept. I want to ask you a question here, a little bit more maybe of a how-to concept. Yeah, I look at a single-family home rental income. Right, you make X long-term rental a year. I could look at Airbnb, short-term rental income. But if I asked you just maybe more of a question of how would you go about kind of doubling, tripling that rent on a rental property, what would be the best way to go about doing that?
I think the best way to double that rent in that single-family home is to do something different. Instead of renting it to a family for a year or two, getting $2,000 a month in that average rental, if I were to lease it to somebody, let's say, doing residential assisted living, if they're willing to pay me $4,000 a month, double the rent, because they're going to be making $10,000 or $15,000 in profit, they're happy, I'm happy. The key to that equation, the how-to, is you got to find that tenant first, that operator who wants to lease it. You and I had this conversation before. Conceptually, I want to know who I'm going to lease it to before I ever buy the house.
Right.
So if I find that person who's already got a business and is expanding to location 2 or 3,
the operator,
or they've been trained, they've got our support, and now they can be successful from the start, those are great people, but finding them first is the key to your success.
Yeah.
Why would they pay double and triple the rent sometimes? Because they're in the business. They don't necessarily own the real estate. Most people don't get it. When you go to a business, the business that you see on the front, they don't own the building.
Very rare.
They probably don't even own the dirt.
Yeah.
Maybe one entity owns the dirt, leases it for 99 years to the entity that owns the building, who leases it for 10 years to the store that you see there in the front. Everybody's making money and everybody has a different purpose.
Yeah, it's very, very true. And when you look at it from a landlord standpoint, I didn't know we were going to go with that answer, but it's unique because you're really talking to someone, let's say like me, that has maybe rental properties, single-family rental properties, and you're not telling me, hey, if I want to increase my rent, you're not telling me to go start a residential assisted living business. What you're saying is I could go find an operator who already does that, looking to do it, maybe contact you to see what network you have available or attend your events, and work with those people and say, dude, I have these 10 houses. We could modify these homes and then rent them back to those for double X, whatever the amount is on the rent there.
Exactly. Take yourself out of the equation of I'm going to be the operator.
Yeah, sure.
You own the real estate.
Investor.
That's what you're bringing to the table.
Yeah.
In addition to that, we focus on residential assisted living at the RAL Academy. We also are doing shared housing, where we're teaching people how to do everything from short-term rentals, student housing, Golden Girl housing, homes for veterans, homes for adult kids with autism that are going to outlive their own parents. So that same home could be used or repurposed for that community. Now they're only paying, let's say, $800 to $1,000 a month, but you're going to have 8 or 10 of those people, and there is no caregiver. There is no meals provided. There is no service. It's just using that same home for a different purpose. And one of the really cool things about that shared housing concept, all of this stuff that's going on today with rent moratoriums, which I think is criminal and sick and all that, doesn't apply to if you have a recovery home and it's designated that way. You can evict anybody that you want to based on the rules of the house. So the rules of the house are X, Y, and Z, and if somebody doesn't follow the rules, we can say you got to rehome or find a new home. As opposed to these people who I think right now there's a lot of people out there worried about their real estate because am I going to get the rent? Are they going to change the rules? Are they going to say, all right, they all have to pay half rent now? I mean, the government is not our friends in this. So if the government's going to be against us, all right, let's get on their side. They have billions of dollars that they're willing to pay and spend on. Let's figure out how to get that money flowing to us. So shared housing is a way. Senior housing, we focus on the private pay. So you and I are brothers. We're going to pay for mom's care. We're not waiting for Medicare or Medicaid. I don't deal with that.
You don't deal with that?
We do more high end, and we talk more about the private pay because that person is going to pay $5,000, $6,000, $8,000 a month, not $2,000.
And wants more of a home feel, taste, look. Versus a big square building box.
Absolutely.
That's out there, right?
Yep.
On these houses, I'm just thinking a lot of, as far as the real estate play right now, are a lot of these ranch style homes or 2-story?
Ranch is your preference because a senior going up and down stairs could be an issue. But if you have a 2-story or 3-story, we have lots of students across the country with that. If the senior can go up the stairs, my grandmother went up the stairs to her bedroom until she was 100 years old.
Wow.
It was her exercise, right? And then at some point it's like, let's bring the bed down to the dining room, Grandma, because you don't need to go up and down the stairs just to get there. So stairs are okay, 2- and 3-story. You can do chair lifts, you can do elevators, or just have seniors that have no mobility issues can be upstairs.
Go back and forth. So again, in this book, if they want a copy of it, this is kind of breaking down what you're talking about right now.
It's the beginning. It's how I got started, that whole story, the real estate play, the business play, the elements that you need. And it gives somebody a good idea, is this something I might want to do? I think, in life, a lot of times timing is key. And when you think about where we are and where we're going, the baby boomers, they're not in assisted living. Their parents were or are, but they're next. They're 10 years out. But when you look at a chart and you see the population, it's like a spike on a chart of those seniors that are coming. So this business is great right now, and it's getting better and better and better. During this whole issue this last year, no issue for us. Every caregiver is still working, every manager, the beds are full. People are paying for mom and dad's care. They're going to, they will. Everybody loves mom, everybody loves dad. They're going to pay for their care.
Interesting. Yeah, because I was thinking about what happened during the COVID time period. And I know, for us, we just kept paying. It wasn't really an option. It was just part of the stuff that we were for sure paying.
It's not like, hey, come on back home now. We'll take care of you.
Well, we had no room. There was no place, right?
Yeah.
Super unique. And you talk about the in business, just understanding. Let's talk about business in general for a second. Staying ahead of that curve, which is what you mentioned right there, right?
Right.
And you use the terminology, which I use the terminology, a basketball and a water hose sometimes. You use the terminology, a pig and a python. Same concept. I think
it's
I like yours
word
better,
picture,
though.
Right? So.
And it's basically like in business, it's just learning how to stay ahead of that pig, basically, that's going through the python or the basketball, staying ahead of it so that you're riding the wave versus trying to catch up to the wave, and then you're starting to miss out on it. It's like investors that started in flipping houses in 2007. Not a great probably time frame.
Not good timing
to start in flipping houses in 2007. But in this market of baby boomers with assisted living, you're still ahead of the curve of the baby boomers right now.
Oh, absolutely. You're not on the bleeding edge, right? We're on the leading edge. We're riding that wave in. There are I mean, I can give you all the stats. There's 4,000 people turning 85 years old every single day.
Wow,
That's
85.
85. That's 1.4 million people every year. Not everybody moves into assisted living, but hundreds of thousands of those people will. Right now, throughout the country, there's about 1.1 million beds. There's 1.4 million people turning 85 this year. They're adding to the inventory typically around 30,000 beds a year. Now this year they're at about 50,000 beds, turned up the dial a little bit because they know what's coming. But even at 50,000 beds a year, for the next 9 years, they need an additional 1.3 million beds. 50 times 9 is 450,000. There's 1.3 million beds needed. That's a crisis. Or it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
And I look at it as an opportunity, and we do something different. We're not Brookdale, Sunrise, Atria. Robert Kiyosaki, I've even consulted him because he and Kim are putting together a project, and I'm not competing with him either because he'll have a 200-bed facility where we have a 10-bed facility.
Yeah.
And mom would rather live in a home, not a hotel,
Yeah,
not an
sure.
apartment building.
Yeah. Yeah, man, very, very, very unique model. And again, nothing like I was originally thinking that it was. When you built RAL, you work a lot with your family inside of it.
Yeah.
In your family. How many family members are you working there with at RAL?
Yeah, I'm really fortunate in that, first of all, when I got started, it was the Gene Show. So everything from I created the website and the phone number that is on the website, I'm answering it. I drove the bus on the tours, I did the everything. Today, all 4 of my kids, so 23 to 33, all 4 of them work within the company. My son-in-law, my daughter-in-law, my future son-in-law, 2 brothers, and my wife, we call her the cruise director. She just does whatever needs to get done. Plus, we have a couple of other dozen people that work within our AL family of companies. But the kids, they're amazing. And this is a part of what I wanted to talk about is the idea of, you know, a lot of times, have you ever heard the song Cats in the Cradle?
I don't think so.
Cats in the cradle with a silver spoon. Some of you
Let's
guys
see
may
if
have heard
you
that
can sing,
before.
dude. You were a musician.
Well, that song will bring tears to your eyes when you hear it. Listen for that song because it's all about not taking the time to spend with your kids. And then as the kids grow up, they're busy and now they're not taking the time to spend with you. And it just grabs you by the throat when you hear that song and you realize no matter how good you think you are as a parent, you're never doing enough. There's always more you can do. So we think of the 18 summers you get with your kids. And it's just at that point, they're going to move up, move on. And that's pretty sad. Now, I'm fortunate in that as I was growing this business, my kids were watching me. They were growing up and they're watching, they're saying, well, Dad's doing well and this looks like fun and he's really helping people. So my daughter Isabel was the first one. She was in Teach for America, teaching. She had a double major. She was a flight attendant. She worked for Disney. And she's saying, I like what you're doing. And then she's kind of blunt. She's like, I don't know if you can pay me enough, though. Right? So we negotiated, and she was one of the first ones. She was the first one in the family to come. She's now the COO of the entire company. And she is an absolute rock star. She is truly, truly good. So it's not nepotism. These guys are really good. The next one was my daughter, Victoria. She was a school teacher, and she wanted to get out of teaching school, which is kind of a drag. It can be fun, but it's a drag. And she's very studious and so on, so she became the CFO, so she does the finances. And she is an absolute rock star as well, just incredibly capable. Everybody loves her. My son Emmanuel, I've been training him how to speak and how to replace me going out on the road and speaking. He's become a real sales expert. I introduced him to Robert Kiyosaki and Tommy Hopkins, and he got quite inspired about business and sales. He got in, he said, what do you need? And I said, you know what? I get a lot of people who need to buy houses and I can't find a good real estate agent. I don't know about you, but there's like 1 out of 100 that's worth their weight.
Contractors.
It's terrible. So I said, look, all you have to do to be good as a real estate agent is answer the phone. It was that true. And he did it. His first year, he did $10 million in sales. And so it blows everybody else away. And I'm like, no, of course he can do it. But he has become an absolute rock star in our sales department, our student success department, and training other salespeople, working with the students and so on. So he's in charge of that division. And then my youngest, who is going to be an orthodontist, has now just come on in the last few months to say, let me start working with the company too. But my future son-in-law, he's taking over another leadership position over here. My daughter-in-law, she is a COO of a company over here. So it's just great to have this, but the cool part about all of this that I'm talking about is we get together like all the time. I see them virtually every single day. And whether it's a Zoom meeting or in person, You know, you and I were talking earlier about family get-togethers,
Yeah.
and whether it's my birthday party or whether it be Thanksgiving or Christmas, we're always getting together, and we can talk business and put it in and out. But if I didn't have that, I mean, I truly would be just like everybody else. See your kids a couple of times a year when they're in town for a few days.
Yeah.
Now I get to continue to train them, teach them, share with them, passing things on. So I'm really at the point where it's definitely not about the money. It's not about me. It's about them, setting them up for success, helping them grow into who they are. And it's just been a wonderful, amazing time.
Yeah. You talk about legacy, right?
Yeah.
What you're referring to there, and how you're setting up legacy that will hopefully, Lord willing, last for a generation and another generation and so forth as you build it out and work with family. I think there's a unique point here that I used to talk about a lot in class when I was teaching, talking about legacy. Mm-hmm. And you use a phrase like you said, you know, if I wasn't working with them, maybe I see them on a holiday for Thanksgiving for a couple of days, right? Yeah. Christmas for 5 days, they come and visit or whatever it may be. You know, a Sunday dinner, they come over, whatever it is. And you kind of, for me, I was the reverse. I was younger for my family, my mom and dad, right, school teachers, and I started adding the time, and it was like, well, my dad is X years old, you know, most likely live, let's just say to here, right, whatever this was, and I was like, well, that's like, I'm gonna make up a number right now for the show, but say it was like 10 years. I was like, okay, well, I got 10 years left probably. You know, maybe I get some extra time, but 10 years. But then it was really like, well, it's not really 10 years because I'm actually not going to see him for 10 years because I'm working and he's working, and I'm actually not going to see him for 10 years. He'll just be alive for 10 years. And that's a different concept to understand, that what you'll be alive for and what you're actually seeing. So then I sat down one day and I started doing the math on it. And I said, okay, well, let's say I see him, right now I see him for this holiday, this holiday. And you kind of know, when you see. And I was like, yeah, but when I'm there for Thanksgiving, yes, I'm there for 5 days, but I'm not with him for 5 days.
That's right.
I mean, only see him for this football game we're watching and this and, this and this. And then I started diving in and said, yeah, but really I'm with my whole family during that Thanksgiving dinner, not just one-on-one with my dad. Time with him.
We should have theme music right now. The Cat's in the Cradle
with
the silver spoon. This is it. You're singing the song.
I added it up. Like, I broke it down for a year and said, this is about how many hours I would be with my dad for Thanksgiving. Like, one-on-one, just me and you, Dad. And my mom, one-on-one with my mom, right? And I added up the hours for a year and then multiplied by 10. And what I realized was like, man, Drew, you're working your ass off right now, but you're working for family. I mean, I was trying to help pull my family out of, not poverty, but get them to the next level. And I was realizing, like, dude, you're going to work all this time and you really only have, I'm going to make up a number here, 515 hours for the rest of my life. That's maybe whatever that number was.
Just little bits here and there. Oh, I get it, man. I get it.
And I was like, whoa, wait a second, man. If all I have is 500 hours left to spend with my mom and dad, I had to go fix that. And for me, it was kind of the opposite of what you were doing. You were doing for your kids. I went and retired my mom and dad. I just went and created a path and a plan. I was already making money at the time, and retired, went to my mom and dad and retired both of them for the purpose of just to spend more time with them.
How did that turn out, by the way?
Oh, the greatest thing I ever did in my life. Greatest thing I ever did in my life. Like, to this day, I still pay my mom and dad you call it a salary if you want to. I don't know, a stipend, whatever it is. And I work it out with different ways of how to do it. But, dude, every month, on the first of every month, money is transferred in their accounts. And I got him a house in Florida to retire. And literally, I bought my dad his favorite truck, bought my mom her favorite car.
Isn't that great?
And we go on family vacation and all kinds of stuff. But even when I was traveling a lot, it was the thing where my mom and dad were the ones who would pick me up and take me to the airport and then pick me back up, on the travel schedule. But it was just unlimited time I had to go spend. It's like, dude, what is more freaking important?
Yeah.
Like, you could build this whole business, right, at RAL Academy, and pass away, and it's like, but what about the things that actually really, really, really matter?
Yeah.
Family, kids, wife.
Yeah, and it's easy to say, and I'm glad you did. You did something about it. You made a change in your life, and it was just...
It cost me.
The whole show here, money is, and the reality is, money is, in that case, it is the ability to make the choice to give them the freedom to do what they want to do. Money is a lot of things, but it can be a tool to do that.
For sure, and money's one of those things where, I think a lot of times, I grew up in a very, say, religious home, and sometimes, money was almost viewed as a bad thing sometimes, and that we misuse a verse talking about money is the root of all evil, right? And
misquoted.
And it's misquoted nonstop because that's not what it says. They
So
always leave out
the
this one little
love.
word that they don't want to talk about. But it's almost like a thing where it justifies, I think is what happens. We use it sometimes as a way to justify why we're not financially well-to-do or set up. And I'm not talking about trying to become a freaking billionaire that just hoards money. I'm talking about the ability to retire your parents or whatever it is that you want to do, whatever it means the most to you. Everybody's different. And sometimes we use that terminology, sometimes in a religious circle, we use that as a way to justify why we're not maybe financially set. And that is not what anything that verse is talking about.
No,
not at all.
You know, the reason why I asked how did it turn out is because I see a lot of people who stop working, they retire, and that's the beginning of the end.
Oh, yeah.
So if they have the concept, I don't know about you, but I don't ever see myself retiring.
Yeah,
I've been joking for a year before
Yeah.
my 60th birthday here. I'm going to retire on my 60th birthday. I'm as busy now as I ever was.
You're taking on new businesses right now.
Yeah, I'm creating new things.
Yeah.
But it's fun, and that's part of it. But I don't ever see myself stopping completely. I've tried that a couple of times, and it didn't go well. So
Yeah, no. But on your point, it was very unique because my mom and dad were not entrepreneurs, both school teachers. Later in life, my dad, his side of the family, they're electricians, and just salt of the earth, worked freaking 7 10s. My dad would to try to pay the bills for us, and obviously, as a husband and wife, because of all the hours they were working, didn't spend a ton of time. You know, you're kind of almost coming and going as a husband and wife, right? And you got kids, and then soccer practices and everything, and it was unique because when they first retired, you go from this schedule, boom, 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 to all of a sudden like, oh, there's nothing going on today. There's like nothing on the agenda today, and you know, first couple of times it's just like feels like a weekend, like a Saturday, Sunday, they said. Right. And then after like a week or two, they said, well, it kind of feels like we were just on vacation, so it was kind of cool. But after like 3-4 months of it, it was like they had to readjust their lives.
Oh, yeah.
They had to readjust. And we had conversations about it because again, if you don't, you have a purpose in life. You've got to have a purpose. We as humans want a purpose.
And let me take that right back to the mentorship thing because the life experiences somebody had, your parents in this case, somebody else can truly benefit and grow from that.
Yeah.
One of the points that I wanted to make sure to talk about with mentors is that I think it's a good thing when somebody pays for something. You paid for the mentorship by driving that car. And that was a brilliant idea, by the way. That was really cool. But you paid for it. And somebody who pays a mentor thousands of dollars, good, because it should mean something to you. I think one of the saddest things is when I want something more than somebody else does. I'm willing to give them my time, my energy, and so on, but they're not willing to listen or learn or do, and that's sad for me. I care more than they do. So the reality is, the older I get, the less I offer input until somebody says, "What do you think?" Or I might gently say, "If you'd like my opinion, I'd be happy to give it, but if not, it's okay."
Dude, there is so much truth in what you're talking about right there in mentorship and in life in general. And I'm going to go into a topic that I normally don't go into, but I think it's part of what's wrong with our freaking country, and it's kind of the demise of some of the stuff that's going on, where when you just give someone money, you just give them money, right? Whatever it is, you give them this, you give them this, you give them this. And I'm 100% for helping the needy. I mean, it is a process that should be done. But when government gets involved and it freaking just and they give and they give and they give and they give, you create this entitled mindset. It's amazing how I've seen it in my business as we do stuff be passed down for the next generation. And it's like it's mind blowing when you look at it and think, man, when you don't pay for something, you don't have the same value system. Because go back to money for a second. I talk a lot of times that money, I'll use the word money is energy. And what I mean really by that is money is stored energy. Meaning for me to have this money, dollars, to go pay for, let's just stay on mentorship for a second. That means that I had to go do something, right? Either investing, business, or a job. I had to go spend my time, effort, money, whatever it was to create this money, right? And so as I keep it easy for a job, as you work a job, you get this paycheck. That paycheck or money is just representing stored energy. Energy is always spent when it comes to money. And we just use the dollars as a way to transfer our energy that we spent over here I can't give you this energy, so I'm going to give you this pay, which represents this energy. What you're selling me, let's just say at RAL Academy, and you say, hey, you can have this, that's stored energy. You know how long it took you to come up with a concept, and how does it work, and what are the steps to it, and what is the blueprint? That's stored energy that you have spent for hundreds of thousands of hours, and we're not going to trade our energy, basically. Yeah. Just stored energy. And I talk a lot about how money is energy, but when you don't trade the energy for that mentor, there's a difference. We don't trade the money for, what I don't get, it could be anything, the rent that you're paying. There was no energy spent. It was just kind of given and done. It messes up the entire value system as we as humans. You know,
I'm tracking with you. I know exactly what you're saying. And the cool thing about that is it's energy that continues on. It didn't just get spent and it stops. Now I can, and it's continuous.
Keeps flowing. Money flows.
I'm going to give you a book title, not mine, somebody else's. And our friend Tom, that we were talking about earlier, he gave this book to me, and it's very powerful. It'll help with what you just said. And it's called The Cycle of the Gift. The Cycle of the Gift.
Cycle of the Gift.
Because conceptually, you just said this, but I'm going to highly recommend you and anybody who's listening to read that book. Because when you give a gift, there's expectation on your side. I want them to say thank you. I want them to appreciate it. On their side, well, I need to give something back. It's meaningful. So flash forward. You got a lot of net worth. You are a wealthy individual, and you're thinking, I'm going to pass this on to the kids, right? Because I'm at a point now where it's like, okay, they're going to ultimately get it. All right, if I give somebody $1 million, what does that do to that person? Because that person now has to figure out, what am I going to do with this?
It could be a curse.
It could be a curse. And it could be a blessing, it could be a curse. But without understanding that, we may be thinking we're doing a good thing, like the government giving money here, you don't have to pay rent. And the bad side is, well, now they assume they should always get that, so they're no longer appreciative. We can't fix the government as much as I would like to, right? But we can help ourselves. And I think that book itself, it's an easy read, a small book, absolutely worth buying. Might be a $25 book, it's not a freebie one. But The Cycle of the Gift, it'll be very powerful for anybody who has anything that they want to give, and especially if you have wealth and you want to pass on a legacy.
Because that is a tricky, tricky road. You see, I study money nonstop. I study wealthy families nonstop.
You do?
Oh man,
I've seen your office.
Yeah, you've seen my office, and I study what's happened, what they do, what they don't do, what's the outcome of it, and a lot of it goes into, are they just giving, and you have this one man, wife, whatever it was that created this, and then just gave it, and then most of the time when that happens, it becomes a shit show on the next one. Most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time. But when they give with also teaching and training, understanding, knowledge behind it, it has a much better chance to succeed, because now this person understands the value of what they're getting, and then what they're supposed to do along with that gift, on the cycle of the gift there. It's very tricky how it works when you're passing down legacy type stuff.
I'm going to ask you a question, and I would like to give you the gift of that book. And I was literally in my office early this morning, and I said, this book, I want to give it to you. And
this
for
book
some
right
reason, no, this book, that one there, The Cycle of the Gift. And it was right on the bookshelf, and I'm like, and I left.
We've never met before.
No, we haven't. And I'm thinking, you would appreciate, so please don't go out and buy it. Allow me to give it to you.
I wrote it down already.
I know,
I'm a reader.
but allow me to give it to you.
I'll do it if you sign it for me. Give me a note in the inside of it.
I will.
Yeah, for sure, man. I would definitely appreciate it, because there's so much value and so much knowledge in understanding how that works. And I think, go back to the mentor thing for a second. When I did it, when you were doing it, I think an avenue there is, if someone wanted to get mentored by me on something, or at this point want to get mentored by you, like this young man that contacted you. To me, the kind of the angle is there. You got to find out what that person needs. There's always something that I do need help with. As you run a business, or something that you need help with, and it could literally be something like drive me to the freaking airport, or whatever it is. There's something. I
know that was a brilliant one. That was really cool.
And I'm a studier of humans. Like, I'm the guy that will go to Las Vegas and not gamble, but just sit and watch people and what they do and why they do it and how they do it, right? And we talked a little bit about this earlier as well. Just studying the psychology of people and what makes them tick, what makes them move. And I would tell anybody that's trying to get a mentor, go find somebody that you want, like you said, and then find out what they need. Everybody needs something, and fill that gap. I'll give you another example. When I crashed in 2000, I don't know if you went through a crash. I would like to talk to you about any failures that you've had to go through.
I've never failed at anything.
That's a home run, man. First person I ever met, the unicorn. You finally showed up. I crashed in 07 and lost everything. Like freaking moved back in my parents' basement. Wife left me. Just the country song basically played out in my life, right? And I knew that I was missing something, and I went back to the mentor thing. I said, I gotta find. I was in real estate, and I was flipping, and I realized I missed the cash flow part. Like assisted living produces the cash flow.
Yep.
And when that market shifted, I could no longer sell my product, and I had no cash flow. And I remember thinking, "What to God if I would have freaking kept some of this cash flow in my life right now?" And I ended up calling up a guy that I knew, his son, and he owned maybe 500 rental properties, right? And managed them all with his own like personal management company and so forth, and was always buying more houses. And I called him up after my crash and said, he knew what I was doing. He knew that I was already successful. I'd already flipped 100 plus properties. And I said, hey man, I lost everything. I said, I want to come and work for you. And I said, I'll work basically as an intern. But I got to have some money to freaking eat. And I said, I'll do it for $10 an hour. And you pay me. I'll work, I don't care, however long you want me to work, like it's irrelevant. I was single. Of course, my wife had left me, so plenty of free time.
Oh.
And I said, I'll move up there, and I want to work for $10 an hour. And I said, I'll give you a year of my life. I want to learn what I missed. And in that process right there, I said, but in return, I'm going to work for you directly. Like, I'll be your executive assistant, whatever it is. But I want near you. I don't want to be in a cubicle somewhere. And he agreed to it. And he paid me $10 an hour. And I put in God knows how many freaking hours at this company. But I learned what I missed in business. And I learned what to do with cash flow and what not to do with cash flow. I learned how to make it and how it works and cap rates, and I learned all that stuff. But it took me a year of my life. But I was willing to go find a mentor that I could learn how to go do it. I think mentor is one of those key things, man.
Absolutely. But you said it took a year of your life, and I'm thinking it only took a year of your life.
Look back at it.
There's so many other people who didn't even ask the question, didn't take 1 year. They've now taken the last, you said 07, the last 14 years, and they still haven't figured it out. They still don't have the answer. It only took you a year.
It only took me a year. And honestly, I could have did it faster. I mean, in the sense of, probably 6 months into it, I was like, oh, dude, I understand it. But I had committed to a year, right? So I honored my commitment to them. But yeah, man, it's funny. I had no idea this conversation was going to go on mentorship. But you brought the word up, and
we can go any direction.
Went with you on it, and it's such a key thing in life. Talk to me about family one more time, because I've worked with family, and I've struggled with it. I've struggled with it. I've hired family, right? I've hired sisters, brother-in-laws, etc., right? And it's one of those things that I've always struggled with, to the point where I got to the point where I said, okay, I'm just not going to hire them anymore. And if I want to help them, then I will create a way of helping them, meaning I almost was helping them, hiring them to help them. And eventually I said, dude, this is screwing my company up.
Because you were doing it for you, not so much for them.
Interesting.
And I think my kids I didn't go to them and say, come work for me.
Okay.
They came to me. And that's different, because it's not whether it's your kids, your family, whether it's brothers and sisters or kids, or anybody else you're hiring. We're looking for the right person, the right attitude, the right, what they're bringing. I love what you said. What can I give? If you want to get something, figure out what you can give. It's going to come back to you. Zig Ziglar, we all know him.
I didn't create that concept.
Help enough other people get what they want, you'll get what you want. So by helping other people, you'll get it back. But conceptually, don't disinclude your family because they're family. Always be looking, be you. And if somebody approaches you with the right attitude, like when you came and said, I will work for you for a year for $10 an hour, and you're committed to that, that's your give to them. But man, completely different. If he had reached out to you and said, hey, come work for me for $10 an hour, you might have said, hey.
I'd have counted offered immediately. Are you crazy? I need $100 an hour.
Exactly. So it's very different. But I always say this too, especially with people that are just have kids, or meaning they're new. It's always easier to do it yourself. The harder thing is to work with them and teach them and show them how to do it. But if you don't do that, they're always going to be children. They're always, and whether it's an employee, whether it's somebody else. So you have to give them the training, you have to give them the opportunity, you have to give them the encouragement, give them the correction, and that takes time. But by investing that time with the kids, because these kids are adults now, right? They're 28, 30, 33. with that, they've come into their own. And now the hardest part is, it's not even me now, because at first it was me separating, saying, I have to do it, right? Now I'm beyond that. It's like, you guys can definitely do it. It's them still looking at dad saying, but I need your approval. And whether they say it that way or not,
sure.
But they're so incredibly capable. But it didn't just start day one. Hopefully I've raised my kids in a good way. They're great people. It's not nepotism. These guys are rock stars. They can go work for anybody else and make multiple six figures. But it's also great that they're within what I do, and I can give them that, you know, they're making multiple six figures with me, and it's great because it's us.
Yeah. So if I go back for a second and maybe break it down, and let me re-ask this question for those that are listening. I'm going to ask the question and maybe give me a couple highlighted points here, and then I want to dive into it with you. If I just ask the basic question of what are some of the tricks or tips? You just gave some, but what are some of the tricks or tips you could talk about when you hire and work with family? There's a lot of blurry lines right there. What are some of the things you could tell us?
So for tricks and tips on working with family, one of the first things is, whether it's family or a stranger, same process.
Okay.
You know, you've got to get hired. So personality test is, are you suited for this job? And
so
if you're
you still
not,
do the whole, like, I always think about good to great when you talk about that.
Oh yeah.
Like getting the right person on the bus.
Oh yeah.
And then getting the right person on the right bus seat. And that's what you're talking about there. So
absolutely.
You still go through that whole process.
Oh, absolutely. Because you can't assume. I mean, I may want something, but I can't assume. One of the hardest things was talking about extended family. My daughter, who's the COO, hired her future mother-in-law. And she came on, and it didn't work out. She had to fire her future mother-in-law, and it went fine.
Yeah.
She's a rock star. I mean, I would have cried, you know, but she is a rock star. But conceptually, it's the same process. You still have to earn this. You're not getting more just because, and you still have to, if you're not as good, and it's not that it's hard and all about money, because it truly is. I treat everybody like family. I mean, I really do. So conceptually, I want you all to succeed. The only way somebody's going to get fired is if you're just not working out. It's if you're great and there's another spot for you, we'll bring you over and put you in over here, because I'm always looking for great people, and they're hard to find.
Yeah,
and when you find them, bring them in, and let's keep them. I could build a whole company around an integrator, you know, using our EOS. But without that, I can't even start the company.
How do you deal with communicating with family, such as work is over and it's 7:30 or whatever it is, right? 6 o'clock and
I'm not
weekends.
I'm not a good example of that, because you know last night I was working until 8 o'clock, 8:30 myself. I'm constantly encouraging them to take time for themselves. So I'm encouraging them to do it. But they listen to what you say, but they watch what you do. So my kids are really hard workers. They work way beyond what others would do. Oh, absolutely. 9 to 5 doesn't even exist for an entrepreneur. TGIF, I'm like, I can't believe it's Friday.
Yeah, it's already Friday.
Exactly. So they're like that too. They have that energy, and so how do you turn it off? You know, sometimes we do a lot of vacations together.
Yeah.
Actually, let me give you another tip.
Sure.
Because, and you can put this with the other one.
Okay.
But the idea of working with family, we do something that's called FFF. It's called Forced Family Fun.
Okay.
Forced Family Fun. And actually, most parents do it with their kids. Like, hey, we're going to go to this place. You're going to enjoy it. Just sit down and let's go. So forced family fun. And as the kids were growing up, it's like, hey, FFF. You know, when one doesn't want to do something. So now it's at the point where we do forced family fun, and it's fun. Between Christmas and New Year's, everybody gets to vote on what we want to do together, and then we all vote, and everybody has to pick one. So it may be we're going to do massages, or we're going to go to the movies, or we're going to go do one of those escape rooms, or we're going to go in the bicycle beer van in Scottsdale and go from bar to bar. Now we can do that as they get older. So just forced family fun, but now it's at the point where it's a tradition. And you start those traditions early. So when you're talking about family, if you can't just start with a bad relationship and I've never even talked to the kid, right?
Right.
It's got to be something, and you're building on that. But working within your business, a lot of times I think people just assume that the kids want to take over the business. No, they may not.
Yeah.
I've always been, you decide what you want to do, what you're passionate about, and do that, because everybody will want to do business with you or work with you or have you work for them. Don't do something you don't love. So I waited for them to come to me, and they all did ultimately, which is great, but I didn't expect that. I was definitely not planning on that. It was the Gene Show, like I said.
Yeah, so the 2 tips there would be, number 1, treat, as you hire family, treat them as regular, the process as a regular person, staff that you'd be hiring, same interview process, same resume process, same predictive index process, etc. And number 2, when you do hire family, create that FFF inside of it.
And let me elaborate on that because we use the EOS system, and that is wonderful for us. It's really, really helped. In addition, we're working with somebody else, Larry and Annie with the SEALs.
Oh,
and, yeah. So we've worked.
Larry Yatch?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So we've worked with them, and applying that concept, those strategies into the family, because there's a lot of conflicts. Keep in mind, these kids went to school together. They're in, imagine going to middle school and high school and knowing everything about this other person. My daughter, one daughter and the one son-in-law didn't like each other a whole lot, but now that they're working together, it's like they really appreciate each other, but not back then.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, and maybe that was where mine was different at, where you were hiring children that wanted to come and be part of dad and mom and what they got going, and I was hiring a lot of brothers and sisters. And it was unique because they knew me still as dumb Andrew that's running around banging his head into stuff, right? And there was just this behind the scenes. So how do the brothers and sisters that work with you, that are reporting to each other or communicating?
I've got stories that I can tell you about that, but I'll give you these 2 without naming names or anything like that. So protecting the innocent. But one, we were business partners for our entire life, but we didn't always see eye to eye. So now he helped me at the very beginning get the education part of what we do together, but I moved on very quickly. And it was like I didn't bring him along, and that was incredibly painful for him. Later on, when I brought him in, he came in, but it was always like, well, you're my little brother, and I should be up here at the top, and so on. And it's like, no, these people are. You're welcome to be this part. So that was a weird one, right? And then another one, he works with us, very small amount, because he doesn't want to make too much money. Because if he makes too much money, then there's things that he gets for free that he wouldn't get.
Other benefits. I know exactly what you're talking about.
It bothers me to this day.
Oh, dude, I don't understand it.
I
don't understand it, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
And it's just like, okay, I cannot fix that. I can't pay you more, and it's not like he's going to work more. And on the other one, it's like the position he's at is exactly right.
Yeah. So it's very unique when you hire brothers and sisters and so forth that grew up with you.
The 5 Love Languages, Gary Chapman.
Great book.
Doing that with your kids, with your family, and with your employees. He has books on all of those to adjust it for that. He's one of our keynote speakers at this year's national convention, so I'm excited about that.
A great communicator. Yeah. Obviously, with his book, that's probably changed so many relationships. That book. You said your convention. What convention?
We have a national convention for the residential assisted living, so we call it RAL NatCon.
Okay.
And we've done 4. This will be our 5th one. It's always
like an annual.
It's annual. Okay. We had about in person. We had about 650 people. Wow. Then when we had to go virtual, bad news, good news. We had 1,000 people virtually, but this year we'll be back in person. The goal is 800 people. Jonathan Goldsmith, most interesting man in the world. I had him come out.
He's one of your good friends, right?
Well, he's a friend, absolutely. He enjoys cigars.
Does he only drink Dos Equis or other drinks
No.
too?
He drinks tequila. He's got his own brand, Astral.
Okay.
But he's a great guy, a lot of fun. So he came out. Robert came out. Kiyosaki too. I know him as well, and he came out, and it was so great to have him share because everybody's awed by him. But he's a real guy, and he gets it. He's in his 70s. I understand this assisted living. We had Harry S. Dent Jr., the New York Times bestseller, the demographic, the 0 Hour, just touting how this is the place to be in business. So pretty cool to have them all out.
When is it?
This year, it's the very last weekend in September.
Okay.
So in September in Scottsdale, RAL NatCon.
500, 800 people you guys should have live in person
800,
there. 800, I like that, man. After that 500, I said 800. 800 people in person there. If someone is not a member of your assisted living program right now, club, can they still attend it or?
Oh yeah, we get anybody who's interested in senior housing, whether it be the real estate, the business, just finding out about it, or if you just want to have a great time. We throw great parties. Okay. I mean, I had Jonathan come out because I knew people would recognize him.
Sure.
And so we had a cigar roller come in from Cuba. We did some custom cigars. I had an old Jaguar that I was not using. It was in my garage. And I'm like, I bet Jonathan would like that. So when he came, I gave it to him and I had it shipped out to him. It was a lot of fun.
That's cool. So that's last week of September. If they want to go to it, buy a ticket, whatever it is, where they go?
Yeah, RALNATCON.com.
RAL, Residential Assisted Living.
National Convention.
NAT.
Yep.
.com?
Yep.
Is that it right there?
RALNATCON.com.
Oh, the con on the end of it.
You can spell it all out if you want. And you got the short one.
And the short one too. And if they go to the RAL 101, would that lead them into that at all?
Everything is connected in the sense of you can go to one of our sites and you'll probably get to everything.
Let me ask you kind of final question here. I want to talk about the money and the meaning of it. And we talk about the money is blank. And it should be a unique answer here with you. And this is Gene here. And this is your sign. So you'll put the answer here, whatever it is, and then sign it real big right here. Don't show it to me. And then me, you're going to break it down into why you went with that answer there.
You got it, I will. How big is my pen? I want to see how big this writes. Okay, good.
All right. Oh, dude, that's no one's got this one yet. No one has said this one yet. All right, so those watching, his answer is money is the Matrix. Money is the Matrix. Now, do you mean Matrix with like Keanu Reeves, the movie? What do you mean by that?
In the concept of, you know, the Matrix, money can be your God. It can be your desire. It can be your life, your drive, your all and end all. Or it can be a tool. It can be energy. It can be the conduit to get something. But money, in another sense, is completely ridiculous. It's like, why in the world do we think this stupid little green paper with these, you know, cool portraits on it is worth anything? So currency, money, it's really just the way that we express value, but how stupid is that? I mean, this relationship that we've created today, I think is much more valuable than money. But much more valuable because this will last forever. The money's going to get spent, thrown away, burned, wasted, whatever. But the Matrix... inflated, deflated, or gone. It'll be a Zimbabwe $1 trillion bill before we know. But conceptually, it's what you think it is. And if you think it's your God, you think it's your destiny, then I want you to rethink.
Yeah, good luck.
Rethink.
That's a a great answer. No one's given the word before, the Matrix. I figured you were the type of guy to come up with a unique answer there. And yeah, man, it's very true. You see people that struggle. Even if I was just completely vulnerable and open here, when I was young, coming out of college, and man, I was hell-bent determined to go create wealth. Like, come hell or high water, I was going to go do it. And it became more of a God, if you will, in my life, and I couldn't see around it. You know what I mean? And I was okay with, like, not okay with it. I didn't mean to do, but it was the path when you think that way. I burned relationships, burned friendships. You know, had to go back and repair a bunch of stuff constantly. Because it was the only thing I ever was like during that time it was my God. That's what I focused on, right? And nothing else mattered to me, minus that. And at the end of the day, I believe this concept. I heard someone else say it. You cannot chase money. It's like an illusion, if you will, and you cannot chase it. If you try to chase it, you're never going to get it. It's like the ponds in the desert. It's more about what you talked about earlier, which was find out what you freaking love, man. And you'll find happiness as you go down that path. And Zig Ziglar, go back to him, you help 1,000 people do what they want, and it all comes back to you. But at that point, you're not chasing money. You're chasing to give. You are giving and giving and giving. And that's when I actually started finding more success during that. But when I was young, let me ask you this question. I want to go back to you. Did you go through that when you were young, 18, 19, 20, 22? Did you find yourself chasing, or money was your God in the example of Matrix?
I didn't.
You didn't?
I didn't. I can go with the flow. So when you're a musician and you're getting paid, you know, $50 and you're spending 40 of it on drinks that same night, you learn how to go with the flow. And it's kind of like, you know, you've mentioned some biblical references, but the sparrow and birds, that God will take care of the bird, will take care of me too. But it is cool how the more you go, the easier it gets.
Yeah.
And I think it's a maturity thing where you have to just realize you don't chase that, chase the relationship, chase the, investing in your kids and your family. The money will come, but there has to be an understanding of money. And if the understanding goes back to the school equation of go to school, get an A, go to college, get a job, live the dream, that's not my dream. So if that's somebody's dream, I think that needs to be readjusted, or else, man, you are just caught in the system.
Yeah, you're caught in the matrix.
You're caught in the matrix.
End it on your quote there, your answer, caught on the matrix. Gene, I loved having the show, man. Awesome, awesome stuff. Very, very unique opportunity, especially because you can stay ahead of the curve, which I am a huge component of any business, staying ahead of the curve. And I can totally see how the RAL business is ahead of that curve and about to explode with the baby boomers that are coming on this pipeline, right? So again, guys, you guys that are watching, if you want more information, go to RAL 101. Get your free copy of the book. This has been Gene. Let me say it right for you. Guarino. No.
You did it
right? Guarino from RALacademy.com. Great having you on the show. We'll have you on the show again, talk about more assisted living. You guys stay tuned. We'll see you next time.